welcome to my video. My name is Brianne Beebe for those of you that don't know me, and I'm a high school math teacher. In the spring, I chronicled my experience with distance teaching. Week by week, I just went through and talked about what was going on for that week, and I wasn't planning on doing the same thing for the fall, which is why I haven't, but I did want to just sit down and film a life update video. I actually originally planned on doing like a week by week replay of like everything that's gone on, but I filmed it and I don't feel any better, and I just feel like negative overall, so I don't want to put that out into the world. It's hard to find that balance between filming these videos and being very honest, but I don't want to put a video out that's going to bring anyone down. So it's just kind of hard to find that balance, but I'm gonna kind of just try and keep it short and stick to like the main things that I've learned or discovered. Hopefully it helps someone. Sometimes these videos, even if they come out like really negative, it's at least helpful for someone to know that they're not alone. I would say that overall, I feel like I'm in the best possible situation as far as online teaching goes. I feel like my district really has done everything that they can for us. It's just, I think the situation is going to be hard no matter what. So before school started, my district moved all of our conference days to the very beginning of the year. So we pushed our start date back with students, but we had this extra time and we learned about the new tools that were available to us, and we were able to collaborate with our colleagues, and I feel like the time was used really well, and I'm so grateful for the time that we had to prepare for the school year. My district changed our schedule, and I was honestly upset about it at the beginning, but I've adjusted. They pushed our start time back from like 7:30 to 8:30. So we go 8:30 to 3:30, which to me translates that I'm losing an hour of time with my family because my son's not really, awake in the morning. I don't get to spend time with him in the morning extra. I'm just losing an hour toward the end of the day that I would have normally had with him. Or at least that was my fear. It's been kind of different. Just when I get home, that's kind of when he's getting home also. So I don't think it's quite as different as I was anticipating. But the way that our day is structured is even though we are scheduled from 8:30 to 3:30, our teaching day is 9:30 to 2:30. So we have an hour at both ends of the day, and I could not be more grateful for that time. So from 9:30 to 2:30, we teach our periods kind of like how we usually would, except they're 30 minutes long instead of 42 minutes. I did a plan with me video for my first week of school and shared that the first week we didn't do any math instruction. Instead, we were focusing on learning the different technology tools and just taking time to get the hang of everything. And I love that that was a decision that my department made, and I think it made a big difference. And it was totally worth it. If I were doing this all over again, I would totally do the same thing again. My biggest stressor in starting the school year was trying to get my classroom set up, because I had it in my mind that I would need to work from my classroom to be the most productive and effective. But it was really frustrating because we had construction going on. I didn't get in my classroom to actually set anything up until the very first day of school. So that whole week, my time, like that extra hour at the beginning and end of the day, was really focused on trying to put my classroom together, and also like just time for me getting there early. So for that whole first week, that hour at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, plus the time where I would come into school early, all that time was being used just to try and make my classroom a functional space for me to teach from. And I mean, there's nothing in my classroom right now except for my desk and everything that I had in my cabinets. It's still kind of a mess. It's not done, but I got it to a space where it was functional for me to teach from. But there was one day that I was driving to school, and I think it was the third week of school. It was just last week. I started feeling just not right, and I was sincerely worried about going into the building and compromising anyone if it was COVID, which it wasn't, because 2 days later I was completely fine. And it wasn't really any of the symptoms, but I just did not feel right. And so I did not go into the building because, if it were COVID, they'd have to shut the building down for everything. So I instead came home and worked from home because we have that option. And honestly, I worked so much better from home. I was way more productive. When I'm at school, I'm switching between different computers because we have a Chromebook, which I run my meets from, but a Chromebook is pretty limited and the screen is so tiny. So I would love to do everything from my MacBook, but it doesn't stay connected to our school's Wi-Fi. And then I have my school desktop, which stays connected to the Wi-Fi, and it has a nice big screen, but there's no camera, so I can't run my meets from it. So I would be switching back and forth between these 3 computers all day long, and every time I switch, I would lose focus. I would sometimes even forget what I was doing, and it just wasn't good, and it really hindered my productivity. So I found that when I was working from home, I was way more productive because I was working on one computer the whole time. So for teaching my classes, I decided to go with a flipped model, which is something I've always wanted to try, but never got to before. And I feel like that's one of the perks of this situation. Before this, my students pretty much didn't have access to the technology that they would need to be able to participate in a flipped classroom. So now we have it. I assign videos through Edpuzzle for students to watch before they come to class. The only issue that I really have is that some of them don't. So the basic routine is we have Edpuzzle, then we have a live class where we go over any of their questions. I recap the lesson just so that they get live instruction too as well. And then we work on usually a Google form, but it might be a slides activity. I did something really cool in Sheets with the conditional formatting where they get instant feedback on whether or not they got a question right. So I'm going to keep doing those. And that's pretty much the routine. And overall, it works good in most of my classes. Ooh, it works well. Sorry, I can't stand bad grammar. So it works well in most of my classes, but I do have my one course, it's not working in there. So this weekend I'm kind of trying to take a step back and just refigure out how I want to teach those classes because that's not working for them. So overall through this experience, I find that some days I feel okay, but lately, like this week in particular, I end up feeling miserable, a lot of the time. And I'm finding that, the duties for a teacher beyond actually teaching when there's students there, they kind of fall into the category of either grading or planning. And what I'm finding is that I have to pick and choose. I can't just do both in one day like I did when we were teaching from the classroom, like normal teaching. So that's been a stressor for me. It's I can either be caught up on grading or planning, but never both. And I feel like to some extent that's kind of a normal back to school thing, but I also just feel like I'm never going to be caught up, and it's quite frankly, it's stressing me out. On top of that, my district was saying that that time before and after school is also meant to be used for professional development. So they're going to start, I'm sorry, I just leaned forward and the sun got my nose. I'm distractible, I'm sorry. My district was saying that our time before and after school could also be used for professional development, which I'm all for professional development, especially if it's going to help me with what I'm doing. But I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how I would be able to get things done if that hour was being taken away from me to do professional development. I think I have to reframe my mind and think of it as a time investment. And I also feel like communication has become a bigger piece. So now we're talking about the main teacher duties being 3 categories if we include communication in there, and just going back and forth with students, trying to help them. And just overall, I can't shake the feeling that I'm doing everything possible that I can, but I feel like it's not enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it well enough. I've talked about that with my husband, but just voicing it now, it just brings tears to my eyes. It's been a rough situation. I always want to do the best thing that I can for my students. But I don't know what more I could do, and honestly doing more is probably not the best decision for my physical or mental health, and I just feel stuck. I am still hopeful and optimistic that everything's going to get better, everything will be fine eventually. And honestly, if I do think back to how back to school is, every year I feel like this at some point. It's just never been to this degree before. usually like the first 5 weeks of school are just really tough and it's hard to get on top of everything, but I do. And then this year, because we started late, it's just taking longer to get to that point. Plus, you know, a lot of this is just so new and so different. I just keep reminding myself everything's going to be fine, and that I think there's going to be great big change that comes from all of this. But right now I'm just in the part where it's tough, and if you feel the same way, just know that you're not alone and we are all together in this, and everything is going to work out. It's just going to take us some time, and reach out to your teacher friends. You can find me on Instagram, or I'm on Facebook too, but I'm most active on Instagram. And I feel bad because like YouTube, I put up the videos and I haven't responded to comments in a while. So if you asked me a question and I haven't gotten back to you, I apologize so much. But I just wanted to say, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video, hopefully with something more fun or happy. But I don't know, I just wanted to be honest today. I'll see you in the next video.